Okay, hello. I'm setting a timer. This is the third time I'm videotaping this, and I keep going over. Anyway, sorry about missing class. Kind of been under the weather. I want to go over chapter 3. I want to only be one day behind instead of 2. So if you can do the homework, even though it's open until Monday, that's my macaw. Even though it's open till Monday, if you can at least have tried to go in and looked at it and worked on it a little bit, then we can go over stuff and not be too far behind. Chapter 3 deals with activity-based costing and just-in-time systems. That's the major part of it. Activity-based costing is similar to what we've dealt with in Chapter 1 and 2, but it's a little finer tuned, and it goes into activities in the production process versus allocating overhead in general to a job. It talks about what's done on that job, what activities, and then going through that. So we're going to start there, talk about that a little bit. It's covered in the book pretty well. There is an example problem discussion, or summary problem number 1 on page 109, and it does a good job of going over that too. What you do is you identify different activities that occur in the production process. In the book they talk about making CDs, so that would be my macaw again. Anyway, there's setups, there's package inserts and whatnot, and those are different kinds of activities in the process. So what we do is we allocate overhead to those activities. You take the overhead that deals with that activity and divide it by a cost driver, such as the number of setups would be an example, instead of our traditional where we take the whole amount and divide it by like total labor cost. So that's the difference. It gives you a better cost system. I think it's finer tuned by the job. You're able to determine your costs, your profit, and everything better under activity-based costing. But the calculations still similar. Going on from that, they go into cutting costs and how you do it, and I've got a timer so I don't go over, there are some things called engineering, value engineering on page 105. Take a peek at that because we talk about that a little bit too. Price product mix decisions, another benefit for activity-based costing. The second part of the chapter goes into just-in-time systems. Those were really popular and still are today. They gained popularity, I remember, in the late 80s, early 90s. And what it is, it's a system so that you can eliminate or reduce significantly the amount of inventory that you have to hold in raw materials and in finished goods. What it does is a customer order comes in, you find out when they need it, and you work backwards. So they need it by a delivery date. Then you know when you have to have it completed. How long is it going to take my son's home? These are my dogs. Anyway, you have the labor that's going to be needed. You can calculate the time when the raw materials are needed. My son is doing nasty things. Anyway.
You're terrible at making videos.
So, you know the date that the production needs to start, and your vendor gets the materials so that you can produce that on the day that you need. It's extremely important that you have good relations with your vendors, because if they're late, you're late and your customer's unhappy, as are you. So it talks about that and how the system is a little different from a traditional system, and the number of quit it.
You're terrible at this.
I am going to kill my children.
Redo.
On page 114, we have some examples of journal entries that would be different, and the accounts that have changed. There is a raw materials, a work in process, and overhead. In a traditional system, in a just-in-time system, because you don't have raw materials inventory, it gets there the day you need it. We combine the raw and in-process inventory into one account. And conversion costs for labor and overhead, the cost of converting the raw materials into a finished product, are condensed into one account called conversion costs. So those are the little bits of differences. And they go through an example starting on page 114. I think they talk about it a little bit on 113. One other thing I want to discuss is on page 116. I usually do this on the test. There's 4 types of quality costs. One is prevention costs. These are the least expensive. They're things you put into play before you manufacture so that you eliminate problems. They're the cheapest to implement. They're the cheapest to administer, the best bet. The second one is appraisal cost. As you're manufacturing the product, you have checkpoints, or you're checking quality control as you go along, so that once you get to a point, you can stop if there's something going wrong and rework it instead of having to rework the whole product. Internal failure costs are once the product is completed, you recognize that there's a problem with the product. They get more costly as these go along. It's before you send it off to a customer. And the last one is external failure costs. These are the most expensive because the product's been completed, it was wrong, it goes to the customer, they're unhappy, you've got to get it back, rework it, or send them a new one, and they're upset, word of mouth, it's really not good. So look at those, be familiar with them, because you'll probably see them on the test. I'll talk about it a little bit more in class too. Then look at the last part of the chapter, different aspects of determining whether you want to change systems that you're on. Summary problem 2 does go through the journal entries for a just-in-time system, so take a look at that too. I'll be putting up another video where I'm going through problems for homework, probably just one, but I'll find a very comprehensive one, so it gives you a little bit of guidance for going through these. I also suggest that you look at the PowerPoint online, and we'll go through this on Wednesday. If you have questions, feel free to contact me. My computer's on, and I'll be available, so today and tomorrow. Thanks a lot, you guys. Sorry about the inconvenience of this. We'll talk to you later.